There is an old saying that goes, you can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And unfortunately for the bully hunters debacle, that turned out not even to be true in their case. They couldn't fool hardly anybody. Now, I'm sure that some of you may be familiar with it. Some of you may be scratching your heads about it. I'm going to lay it all down as someone who's quite frequently glued to anything gaming related, having a big collection right over there. My PS3 games and PS4 games over on that side. So it all started on April 6th of this year when a mysterious trailer was dropped on a YouTube channel called Bully Hunters, and the entire thing was truly something to behold in how awful it was. It was meant to showcase a stream coming up within 6 days for a service specifically tailored for the game Counter-Strike Go, or Global Offensive, CSGO, I guess they would initially start with. And it was meant to be a way to take out bullying and harassment in the game by calling in a bully hunter, I guess a vigilante or maybe some kind of a mercenary type, who would come into your game and take out the person who would be calling you all sorts of nasty names. Now, this was specifically tailored to females, and it was meant to be female only, specifically based on the idea that females are the most harassed people in video gaming. Of course, the trailer was a bit of an oddity in its absurdity. For instance, it claimed that 21 million women had experienced harassment in online gaming, and furthermore, and further statements by the people involved would claim that 3 million women had been prevented from gaming. Now, the 21 million women thing, when I first saw it, I nearly laughed until my spleen erupted, because it was the most ridiculous number I've ever seen. Now, that's not in any way to denigrate or make light of harassment or genuine actual harassment, but I took the time to break down the numbers on this. This 21 million number, and this is apparently just in the United States alone. This 21 million number combined is larger than the population of 15 states in the Union. And if that's not enough, this entire population of supposedly harassed women would account for more than all but 2 states in the entire Union. 48 of the states in our glorious United States cannot account for their total population, cannot account for the number of people harassed, according to this. Now, even before the stream went up, people did some digging on this number, because they were kind enough to link this to a survey that they supposedly extrapolated this number from. Now, digging into the survey, it turns out that it was a rather unscientific online study conducted with 846 people, 63% of which, 63% of the women participating, so an already much smaller number than even 846, claimed that they received sexual-based harassment in online gaming. Again, not making light of that, but that's not an extraordinarily high number from the sample size. But apparently what this organization did was take this and matched the 63% figure up against the number of women who own consoles in the United States. And so that's somehow that they arrived at the 21 million mark. So already flags were blood red flags are being raised already, even before the stream on the video site Twitch had even begun. But it got everyone's curiosity. I mean, I didn't hear about it, in my own little world over here until it was just about to go live. I didn't actually catch it. But the further information presented was that this was going to be an event that was sponsored by numerous organizations, including a headset maker called SteelSeries, and even the National Organization of Women Chicago branch, in addition to others. And it was all being put together by a marketing firm called FCB Chicago. And I'll get into more of that later because they have an interesting part. They have an interesting hand in this. And then what was interesting was the interactions with the main presenter, a woman named Natalie Casanova, who went by the gaming and Twitter handle of Zombie Unicorn, a heavily tattooed woman with bubblegum pink and neon blue hair, and who proceeded to deflect all questions regarding their sources, all questions regarding their numbers and their methods. There was even one famous exchange just hours before the stream on Twitter with a mental health professional who decided to ask where they were getting these specific numbers other than just the survey that they had provided, including the figure from Zombie Unicorn herself, who stated that 3 million women had been prevented from participating in gaming entirely due to online harassment. She deflected and just said, watch the stream, I'll give you answers on the stream. So already people were incredibly skeptical, and this being the era of internet digging, that's not a good position to put yourself in. And so comes the night of the big stream, which is promised to be 1 hour long, and it only lasts about 45 minutes, so now whatever, I guess. The whole entire thing was a debacle. It was an entire. It was a great big shit show. It didn't fool anyone. Now, what I mean by it didn't fool anyone was people found the gameplay footage that they were providing to show for this little service of theirs, this little vigilante service, was entirely fake. Now, I'm not incredibly familiar with CSGO. I've only seen it played. I've never actually taken it for a spin myself. I mean, I don't play online multiplayer anymore, really. But in my day, I used to play a lot of Call of Duty. Not to brag or anything, but I grinded all the way up to max prestige in Black Ops 2. So, anyway, this is more information. Some of the information on the fakery that occurred, I had to look at to experts, and other things I could just pick out myself. One of the main things that they showcased was apparently a live harassment in game. In game. Oh my God, look, it's breaking right now. Let's go live. The incredibly cringeworthy presentation showed. There are two types of multiplayer games in CSGO. There's ranked, and then there's just regular quick matches. Now the thing that the Bully Hunters advertised was you could use their app or their website, and you could send in your information and have and that if someone was, telling you to get back in the kitchen, make you a sandwich, or, even upped it to some sort of other unmentionable words. I guess I should say. You could call in a supposedly elite female gamer to come in and kill this person in game, and leave a calling card leave a calling card on the screen. Harassment is not a game, it said. Now, for seasoned CSGO players, immediately figured out a major problem with this was you can't come in and drop out of ranked matches like that. So you can't call in for these reinforcements. So this had to be a quick match. So that was a bit of a problem. And then there was the gameplay, which I think anyone who's even watched or participated a little bit in multiplayer games could pick out was incredibly doctored, incredibly fake. Specifically because this elite player that they had, this elite bully hunter 77 was the name of this person. Went in after this guy who was, now, you know what, I'll just say it, saying calling the woman a cunt or a bitch, things like that. She followed the guy in the game as he was going around a corner, but then all of a sudden he just mysteriously stops, just stops dead in his tracks. In a game in which you constantly need to keep moving. And so Bully Hunter 77 got him in the back with the knife, and this was somehow touted as being, oh, look at the knife skill, look at that. Rewind and look at that again. It was, yes, it's incredibly impressive to knife a player in the back who's just standing there. It sort of reminds me of the scene from Glory where they're shooting the muskets at the cans, and the one guy is praising himself, like, look at how good I am, and Matthew Broderick's character, like, do it faster. You know, let's see how well you can do when you don't have time to aim. That sort of reminded me of that. It's not particularly impressive to take out an immobile target. I mean, not that I hadn't done that a lot in Call of Duty myself, but it's not anywhere near as exciting to maybe track down someone, or maybe just barely survive the shootout. You know, they get 4 bullets in you and you get 5 in them, or you manage to deftly evade their fire and just like that with the knife, as they then probably screen themselves into oblivion. So there was that. The stream itself, was incredibly fake. And then there's what came afterward, which was the true breakdown of this entire thing, where the whole narrative that they had constructed collapsed in record time. For instance, and this was the greatest piece of information dug up. CSGO being on the online service Steam, it keeps track of. You can track down specific player profiles and player names on Steam. Not the people's names, mind you, just their online IDs, their in-game names. You know, you'd have to be pretty damn dumb to put your own real name out there these days. It turns out that the person that was being harassed, who was known as the Rose Thorn, and Bully Hunter 77 were the same person. It turned out that even a lot of the Bully Hunter names that had been brought up, like the Bully Hunter numbers, were all tied to the exact same account. Hooray. Yeah. So that went an extra long way to confirming that this was all a big pile of bullshit. And then it got even better in terms of the personnel involved. With Zombie Unicorn herself. Excuse me for bumping the mic. The woman who was championing against harassment in games, who is going to take a brave stand against the horrendous misogynist bullies of the internet. In fact, all bullying. No one should ever, ever, ever have to deal with any sort of name-calling or harassment in here. It turns out that she was a bit of a bully herself. People had managed to track down a live stream where she was calling the people who were, I guess, kicking her ass in game. You know, she was saying, "Oh, I'm sick and tired of all these faggots. Look at all these faggots." Bellissimo. It wouldn't be a downfall without a big, giant, heaping serving of hypocrisy, now wouldn't it? And then the marketing firm involved, FCB Chicago, eventually released a statement saying, "We were just approached with this. We didn't really have much say in how it went. We were just asked to present it." So that sort of fell apart. The one stalwart in this entire thing out of the multitude of sponsors was SteelSeries. And they stuck by this, saying that they were for it as long as it opened a conversation about harassment. Well, the true motive was finally discovered. Also due to the fact that they were mysteriously advertising gaming peripherals with the Bully Hunter logo, which was sort of the female symbol with like combined with crosshairs, which interestingly enough, people were pointing out that it looked a little bit like the calling card of the Zodiac Killer. I guess that Ted Cruz should sue. So this entire thing was done basically as a marketing gimmick. It was done to sell headsets with the Bully Hunter logo on it, on the headsets. Yeah. And then of course in the aftermath came things like the people involved running straight to ABC News, like all little good social justice warrior types do whenever they're confronted with anything, to run and say, "Oh, look at what we're doing and look at the people that are against us. Oh, look at all this." Yeah. Is it, you can fool them, but you really can't fool us, can you? Look, I'm not saying that people shouldn't, just fuck. I did so well. I'll get it right. Here we go. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take these sorts of things with any sort of lightheartedness. I mean, people actually genuinely do get death threats, harassment. People dox their information and track them down. People get all sorts of nasty comments, but I would also like to point out a couple of things. Most of the harassment that people get, and that I've gotten, getting called things like faggot and nigger slut by people in game and through messages for kicking their ass. I remember one particular instance getting a long-ended tirade in Modern Warfare 2 on the map Afghan, when I picked up the intervention sniper rifle from a teammate that had been taken down and just started somehow having one of the best sniping streaks of my days in Call of Duty, and then all of a sudden getting a slew of race-based, sex-based, all sorts of anything that you could get, just shit thrown at me by probably 10 or 12-year-old kid who had apparently changed his class before he'd gotten killed, and he really wanted those kills, and then proceeded to stand next to me and shoot bullets at me to no effect because you can't team kill or have friendly fire like that, until we both got taken out by a Predator missile. So it's not like I'm in any way saying that this isn't something we should take seriously, but there are built-in solutions to these problems. You can mute other players, which pretty much you have to do most of the time, unless you're some kind of a madman, unless you really want to hear crappy lo-fi rap blaring through some burned out stoner's headset, or some little kid describing in detail the ways that they're going to take your mom or something, or maybe some kids down in Mexico, or all the way up in Minnesota, or who knows, in Canada, calling everyone niggers. Look, I'm not saying that's a problem, but you can mute those players. You can report players. You can report them, and the people in charge of the games can look into them, and potentially, particularly on consoles, especially with Microsoft, they can ban their accounts, or they can even console ban them, IP ban them, which means that they can't even use the specific internet address, and it can even lock their console from connecting to Xbox Live. And I'm pretty sure that there are things like this that can be done with their PC-based counterparts. And two, aside from that effective method, just going in there and completing the objective of the game, killing people, is not going to accomplish anything. In fact, it's probably going to only piss them off even worse. I mean, 99% of players aren't these super magic hackers, but there are people that are super magic hackers that could figure out where your information is, and just track you down and start sending you horrendous emails or phone calls or anything like that. The best thing to do is to just mute people or report them and just move on. This whole vigilante hit thing was never going to any way be effective. You're just probably going to get it worse. And the thing that really got to me, even after all of this, even after all the horrid behavior of people like Zombie Unicorn involved with this, I should also mention that she was threatening to file takedown notices on videos of people who use footage of the stream, because, what better way to attempt to cover your own ass? Not that it did her any good, because, there are videos of this all over the internet right now. Even after all the hypocrisy, even after all the blatant fakery, it was speculated that this was by the apologists in the lamestream video game outlets, that this was all for a good cause gone wrong. Now, I don't actually think it is for a good cause. I think it's for an unachievable gain. It's about as useful, and it reminds me of the movie Miss Congeniality, where all the beauty contestants were saying what they would do to change, what they would want in the world. And every single one of them just goes up and says, world peace, world peace, world peace. And then Sandra Bullock's character comes up and says harsher sentencing for repeat offenders, and then there's just silence, and then it's just and world peace, and then everyone starts clapping. It's a pointless platitude. It's a pointless effort. You're never going to achieve either of those goals, especially online harassment, especially considering, not to take away from the race-based and sex-based insults that get hurled at people no matter what their gender or persuasion or racial background is. What exactly counts as harassment is again a wide spectrum. People might say, well, you suck is harassment or bullying. And you're going to get that in any sort of competitive field. Never mind the wilds of the internet. To me, the best thing that you can do to actually combat this sort of thing, like I pointed out before, like anyone who's even familiar with these things will point out: mute, block, report. Eventually it's going to become a bit of a problem for people to have to keep making email accounts and setting up new profiles to continue their little tirades. It's going to become incredibly difficult for them. So I don't really know who thought that they were going to be able to fool anybody with this. You just couldn't. You can't fool gamers like this. I mean, we may be incredibly diverse in our locations, politics, and even genetic makeup, but I think that we're all the same in terms of our being able to sniff out these sorts of things. And this entire effort has been eviscerated from end to end. And it's great. It really is great to see that no one outside of I guess, people unfamiliar with the whole scene was even fooled. It may be true what P.T. Barnum said, but then again, you really can't fool people who know any better. So that's the saga of the bully hunters, of their made-up statistics, of their hypocritical behavior, of their faked matches, all in an effort to try and sell headsets. and of their stupid little system. I should also say that what was to stop this little tool of theirs from being appropriated by bullies, by harassers, by bullies? What was to stop them using them and just using them on teams that were kicking their ass? What was to stop that? What was to stop it from being, potentially an ambush point? What was to maybe have to set it all up to have someone on the other side saying, "Hey, why don't you go get back in the kitchen? Why don't you go make my tuna sandwich? The only place that women belong is in the bedroom or something, in the kitchen or something. You don't belong out of the house." What was to stop someone just setting up on the other side, broadcasting something like that, and then eventually just annihilating these people? I mean, the entire thing was ill-conceived from the start. I don't even see how this would have worked in Counter-Strike in the long term, let alone games like Call of Duty or Battlefield or League of Legends or Battlefront. Battlefront, a horrendous piece of garbage. Anyway, who is to say that it would have actually succeeded in any regard? It was all just a debacle from top to bottom. No one No one was taken in by it except those who were maybe sympathetic to the idea, who will apologize and say it had good intentions. Well, I don't even think it had good intentions. I think, well, I mean, I shouldn't say that it didn't have good intentions. I just think it was an unachievable goal and completely the wrong way to go about this. So, anyway, that's the saga of the Bully Hunters. That's their legacy of failure, which they will not be able to live down, no matter how much they may try. So that's it. Tronathon out.